on YouTube and Facebook, and check to make sure we're streaming. Okay, we're online. Very good. Okay, everybody, let's get started with a little chanting. I think we're set. Sorry we haven't had class the last few days. There's been a little health challenges, but let's see what Krishna wants. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma Madan Muhi Savadana Mate Jahara Prasade Bhai Evavatori Ajay Krishna Prapti Hoye Aho Hoite Guru Mukhapadma Vakya Chite Te Korea Ikya Aranako Ryo Manea Sa Shiguru Charane Rati Ese Utamagati Ye Prasade Pure Sarva Asa Takudan Niloye Janme Janme Prabhu say Vivegan Rene Bhakasita Prima Bhakti Oite Avajavanasayate Vedikaya Charita Shiguru Karuna Sindhu Adamajanara Bandhu Lokanath Lokera Divana Aprokorajaya Degamore Parachaya Vyas Shutri Bhuvana Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa Paravaticharya, also Tada Satashi Shivad, His Divine Grace Savaya Chaitanya Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sidvaita Garadha Sivasani Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Saim Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Machuradam Ki Jai, Jagannath Swami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Buddhaya Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nivashesha Shunyavati Paschatcha Deja Tarani. So, let's read the translation to this prayer written by Srila Narottam Das Thakur, and we chant this every morning during our Guru Puja. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give me the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, Omagana Miranda Shah Gananjana Shulakya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master's divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who has so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So now I'm going to go on to the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. So let's read from the 18th chapter, beginning with text 14. And this particular chapter, the Caitanya Caritamrta, describes Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu entering into the sea and the devotees rescuing him. Actually, the fisherman who rescues him. And it's a very interesting story. So let's continue. These final chapters of the Caitanya Caritamrta deal with Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu's Mahabhav, that means great transcendental emotions, in the mood of Srimati Radharani, feeling separation from Krishna. So let's go. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Alright, let's put everything in its place. So, continuing with text 14. Koti Yuga Paryanta Yari Likaye Ganesha Ekadinera Lila Ratavu Nahi Paya Shesha. If Ganesh, Lord Shiva's son, and the expert scribe of the demigods tried for millions of millenniums to fully describe one day of the Lord's pastimes, he would be unable to find their limit. Bhaktira prema vikara deki Krishnara chamatkara Krishna yara napayanta Keva chara ara. Even Lord Krishna is struck with wonder at seeing the transformation of ecstasy in his devotees. If Krishna himself cannot estimate the limits of such emotions, how could others? So, of course, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Krishna, and in order for Krishna to understand the transformations of ecstasies of his devotees, Krishna had to appear in the mood of his greatest devotee, Srimati Radharani. Bhakta premara yata dasha yegati bhakara yata dukkha yata sukha yateka vikara Krishna tha samyakna pare janite bhakta bhava hangi kare taha ashvadite. Krishna himself cannot fully understand the conditions, the mode of progress, the happiness and unhappiness, and the moods of ecstatic love of his devotees. He therefore accepts the role of a devotee to taste these emotions fully. So, of course, here we're referring to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's esoteric reasons for appearing. His exoteric reason is to spread the Krishna consciousness movement, Nama Sankirtan, Kali Kaleradana. Krishna Nama Sankirtan, Krishna Shakti Vananahi, Tari Pavartana. That's the external reason. But the internal reason is to actually experience the happiness that his devotees, especially the Srimati Radharani, experiences, to understand her love for him, and to see himself from her perspective. Krishnere Nachya Prema Bhaktere Nachaya Apane Nachaya Tine Nache Ekatani. Ecstatic love of Krishna makes Krishna and his devotees dance, and it also dances personally. In this way, all three dance together in one place. So ecstatic love of Krishna, of course, ecstatic love of Krishna is a person. It's Bhakti Devi. It's interesting. So she dances. So everything about Krishna's internal potency is personal. So love of Krishna is a person. Bhakti Devi. Interesting. Primara vikara vanite chane ye jana chanda darite chahiyena hanavamana. When it wants to describe the transformations of ecstatic love of Krishna, is like a dwarf trying to catch the moon in the sky. In other words, you can't do it because it's unlimited. Vayu yachi sindhu jalera harika kana Krishna prema kanatache jivera sparshana. As the wind can carry away but a drop of the water in the ocean, a living entity can touch only a particle of the ocean of love of Krishna. Shane Shanayute Primara Tarangananta Jiva Chara Kahantara Paibeka Anta. Endless waves arise moment after moment in that ocean of love. How could an insignificant living entity estimate their limits? Shri Krishna Caitanya Yaha Karena Svadana Saveka Janita Sarupari Kana. Only a person on the level of Swarup Damodar Goswami can fully know what Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tastes in his love for Krishna. Because Swarup Damodar Goswami is Lalita Devi. So that's how he knows. Jivahana Karaye Tahara Varnana Apanas Shodhite Tara Chonye Eka Kada. When an ordinary living entity describes the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he purifies himself by touching one drop of that great ocean. E Matarasera Shloka Sakala I Padila Sheshe Jala Kalirak Shloka Padite Lagila. Thus all the verses about the Rasa Lila dance were recited. Then finally the verse concerning the pastimes in the water was recited. Tabira Yutashramam Apoita Manga Sangha Krishna Shaja Sakucha Kunkuma Ranjitaya Gandharva Palivir Anudruta Abhishadva Shranto Gajibir Ibarad Ibabina Setu. As an independent leader among elephants enters the water with its female elephants, Krishna, who is transcendental to the Vedic principles of morality, entered the water of Yamuna with the gopis. His chest had brushed against their breasts, crushing his flower garland and coloring it with red kumkum powder. Attracted by the fragrance of that garland, humming bumblebees followed Krishna like celestial beings of Gandharvaloka. In this way, Lord Krishna mitigated the fatigue of the rasa dance. So this, of course, is after the main rasa dance. They were cooling off or mitigating, as they say, the fatigue. This is a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 33rd chapter, text 22. E Mata Mahaprabhu Brahmate Brahmate Aitokta Haite Samudra Dekena Achambite. While thus wandering near the temple of Ayatota, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu suddenly saw the sea. Chandrakante Uchalita Tarango Chula Chalamala Karayena Yamunara Jala. Brightened by the shining light of the moon, the high waves of the sea glittered like the waters of the river Yamuna. Yamuna Rabarame Prabhu Dana Chalila Alakshiteyai Sindhu Jale Janpadila. Mistaking the sea for the Yamuna, the Lord ran swiftly and jumped into the water, unseen by the others. So this is a common characteristic of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. If he sees a sand dune, he takes it as the Govardhan Hill. Anyway, so this is a sign of pure devotees that practically everything becomes a stimulation for their ecstasy in Krishna consciousness. That's called a vibhava. Vibhava, in the science of bhavas or emotions, means those things which stimulate one's love of Krishna or one's ecstasy in love of Krishna. And that can be Krishna directly, or things related with Krishna, or it can be the devotees. Alambana and Udipana. Padite haila murcha kichwina jane kabu dubaya kabu basaya tarangera gane. Falling into the sea, he lost consciousness and could not understand where he was. Sometimes he sank beneath the waves, and sometimes he floated above them. And remember, the ocean at Jagannath Puri has a very, very swift undercurrent. It pulls you to the side. It doesn't pull you out, but it pulls you to the side. It's actually several miles an hour undercurrent. When I went into the ocean there, it was just like, wow. And I'm a good swimmer. Turange vahia pire yena shushka kashda kevujite pare e Caitanya nata. The waves carried him here and there like a piece of dry wood. Who can understand this dramatic performance by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu? Kornakera dike prabhure tarange lanagyaya kabudu bannarakye kabu basana lana yaya. Keeping the Lord sometimes submerged and sometimes afloat, the waves carried him toward the Kornaka temple. It's a sun god temple, and that's actually many miles away. Phew. Prabhupada explains that Kornaka, generally known as Caritamrta, is a temple of Lord Surya, the sun god. It is situated on the seashore 19 miles north of Jagannath Puri. It was constructed of black stone in the beginning of the 13th century of the Shaka era, and it shows expert craftsmanship and architecture. Yamunate Jalakeli Gopi Gana Sange Krishna Karena Mahaprabhu Magna Se Range. Let me just check this. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fully merged in the pastimes Lord Krishna performed with the gopis in the water of the Yamuna. Ihan Surupadi Gana Prabhu Nakte Kiya Kahangela Prabhu Kai Chamat Kita Hana. Meanwhile, all the devotees headed by Swarup Damodar lost sight of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Astonished, they began searching for him, asking, where has the Lord gone? So it doesn't actually say that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu floated all the way down to the sun god temple, Karnaka temple, but rather he floated towards the temple, because that would have been 19 miles away. Mano vege gila Prabhu dekite narira Prabhu re nakdekiya sangshaya karite lagila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had run off at the speed of the mind. No one could see him. Thus everyone was puzzled as to his whereabouts. Jagannatha dekite kiba Ivalaye gila Anyo jane kiba Umade padila. Has the Lord gone to the temple of Jagannath, or has he fallen down in madness in some garden? Gundicha mandira gela kiba narendrere Chataka parvati gela kiba kunar kire. Perhaps he went to the Gundicha temple, or to Lake Narendra, or to the Chataka Parvaka. Maybe he went to the temple at Karnaka. Etabali sabe pire prabhure chahiya samudra ratire aila kata janalana. Talking like this, the devotees wandered here and there looking for the Lord. Finally they came to the shore, accompanied by many others. Chaye vedaita yatshe rachi shesha haila antardana haila prabhu Nishchya Karila. While they were searching for the Lord, the night ended, and thus they all decided Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has now disappeared. In other words, they thought that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had finished his pastimes on this earth. Whew. Oh my God. Prabhura vichede kara dehina hi prana anishta shankavina kara mane hi ana. In separation from the Lord, everyone felt as though he had lost his very life. The devotees concluded there must have been some mishap. They could not think of anything else. Anishta Shankini Bandhu Vidyani Bhavantihi. That's all. A relative or intimate friend is always fearful of some injury to his beloved. This is a quotation from the Abhijnana Shakuntala Nataka. Samudre retire ase yukati karila chirayu parvatadike katajana gela. When they arrived at the seashore, they conferred among themselves. Then some of them sought out Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at the Chataka Parvata. That's close. That's Chataka Parvata is sand dune, which Lord Chaitanya previously thought was Govardhan Hill. Purvadeshaya chale surupalana kata jana sindhu tire nire karena prabhura anveshana. Swarup Damodar proceeded east with others, looking for the Lord on the beach or in the water. Vishale vivalisabe nahika chaitana tabu preme bule kare prabhura anveshana. Everyone was overwhelmed with moroseness and almost unconscious, but out of ecstatic love they continued to wander here and there searching for the Lord. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was just basically stimulating and enhancing their ecstatic love and separation fear. They were fearful of something that happened. They were unhappy. And there's all symptoms of ecstasy. Dekena kajalia asekande kajala kare hasekande nachigaya vale hari hari. Passing along the beach, they saw a fisherman approaching with his net over his shoulder. Laughing, crying, dancing, and singing, he kept repeating the holy name. Hari, Hari. Jaliyara cheshtadeki, sabara chamatkara, sarupa goshani tare, uchena samachara. Seeing the activities of the fishermen, everyone was astonished. Swarup Damodar Goswami therefore asked him for information. Kaha Jaliag Etike Dekila Eka Jana Tumare Dashakene Kahata Karana. My dear fisherman, he said, why are you behaving like this? Have you seen someone hereabouts? What is the cause of your behavior? Please tell us. Jalia Kahe Ihaneka Manushana Dekila Jalavahite Eka Mritaka Mora. The fisherman replied, I have not seen a single person here, but while casting my net in the water, I captured a dead body. I lifted it with great care, thinking it a big fish, but as soon as I saw that it was a corpse, great fear arose in my mind. Jalaka saite taranga sparsha ila sparsha matre e se bhuta hridaye pasila. As I tried to release the net, I touched the body, and as soon as I touched it, a ghost entered my heart. Because that was the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It wasn't a ghost. It was the holy name. Bhaikampa Haila Mora Netre Vahe Jala Gadgaravani Roma Utila Sakala. I shivered in fear and shed tears. My voice faltered, and all the hairs of my body stood up. Kiva Brahma Daicha Kiva Bhuta Kane Nayaya Darshana Matre Manushera Paishe Se Kaya. I do not know whether the corpse I found was the ghost of a dead Brahmin or of an ordinary man, but as soon as one looks upon it, the ghost enters one's body. Phew. Shavira Dikalatara Hata Pancha Shatsta Ekeka Hastapada Tara Tina Tina Hata. The body of this ghost is very long, 5 to 7 cubits. Each of its arms and legs is as much as 3 cubits long. Asti Sandhi Chutile Charma Karinada Bate Taha Deki pranakara nahi rahi lode. Its joints are all separated beneath the skin, which is completely slack. No one could see it and remain alive in his body. Madarupadari rahi utana nayana kabu gong gong kare kabu rahi chaitana. This ghost has taken the form of a corpse, but he keeps his eyes open. Sometimes he utters the sounds gong, gong, and sometimes he remains unconscious. Saksha deke chon more pila sevuta mui mile mora kaiche jive stri put. I have seen that ghost directly, and as he is haunting me, but if I die, who will take care of my wife and children? Seita butera kata hananaya ujhatana taniya chon yari se buta chadeha. The ghost is certainly very difficult to talk about, but I am going to find an exorcist and ask him if he can release me from it. Ekoratriye muni matcha mariye nirjane Bhuta preta marana lagi nishringa smarane. I wander alone at night killing fish in solitary places, but because I remember the hymn to Lord Nrsimha, ghosts do not touch me. E Bhuta Nrsimham name chapaye dvigune tahara tara dekite bhaya lagi mane. This ghost, however, overcomes me with redoubled strength when I chant the Nrsimha mantra. When I even see the form of this ghost, great fear arises in my mind. Otana ajaiha aminishedi tomare tahangele sebuta lagibe sabare. Do not go near. Do not go near there. I forbid you. If you go, that ghost will catch you all. I mean, the devotees are very relieved that they've actually found Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at this point. Eta Shuni Sarupa Goshani Saba Tattva Jani Jaliyare Kichukaya Sumaduravani. Hearing this, Swarup Damodar could understand the full truth of the matter. He spoke sweetly to the fisherman. Ami bada ujha jani bhuta chadaite mantra pari shri hasta dila tahara mathaite. I am a famous exorcist, he said. So an exorcist is someone who gets rid of ghosts. And I know how to to rid you of this ghost. He then chanted some mantras and placed his hand on top of the fisherman's head. Tina chapada mari kai Bhuta palaila bayana paya bali shustira karila. He slapped the fisherman 3 times and said, now the ghost has gone away, do not be afraid. By saying this, he pacified the fisherman. He wanted to pacify him so we could find Lord Chaitanya. Eke prema aribaya tviguna stira vayam sagela se haila kichu dira. The fisherman was affected by ecstatic love, but he was also fearful. He had thus become doubly agitated. Now that his fear had subsided, however, he had become somewhat normal. Svarupakai yanretumi karabhuta gyana utanahi teno Krishna Chaitanya Bhagavan. Swarup Damodar said to the fisherman, my dear sir, the person you are thinking is a ghost is not actually a ghost, but is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prema Veshe Padila Tenon Samudra Jale Tanre Tume Utayala Apanara Chale. Because of ecstatic love, the Lord fell into the sea, and you have caught him in your net and rescued him. Tanra Sparshe Haila Tumara Krishna Premodaya Utapreta Jnani Tumara Haila Mahabhaya. Simply touching him has awakened your dormant love of Krishna, but because you thought him a ghost, you were very much afraid of him. Ebi Bayagela Tumara Mana Haila Stire Gahantanre Utanacha Dekha amare. Now that your fear is gone and your mind is peaceful, please show me where he is. Jaliakahe Prabhure dekya chon barabara tenho minahena adivikrita akara. The fisherman replied, I've seen the Lord many times, but this is not he. This body is very much deformed. Surupakahe tanahaya primera vikara asti sande charihaya ati dirga kara. Swarup Damodar said the Lord's body becomes transformed in his love for God. Sometimes the joints of his bones separate and his body becomes very much elongated. Shuni se jalia anandita haila sabalana gela mahaprabhure dekaila. Hearing this, the fisherman became very happy, brought all the devotees with him, and showed them Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Wow. Okay. Bhumite pari ache. Whoops. Prabhu dirga sabakaiha. Jale sveta tanu. Valula giache gaiha. The Lord was lying on the ground, his body elongated and bleached white by the water. He was covered from head to foot with sand. Ati dirga Hila tanu charma nataya durapatu tanagare anananayaya. The Lord's body was stretched and his skin was slack and hanging loose. To lift him and take him the long distance home would have been impossible. Adra kopina durakare shushka parana parivase shohaila waluka chadana. The devotees removed his wet undergarment and replaced it with a dry one that lay the Lord on an outer cloth. They cleaned the sand from his body. Savi meli uchakare karena sankirtane uchakare Krishna nama kahena prabhura kane. They all performed sankirtan, loudly chanting the holy name of Krishna into the Lord's ear. Katakshane prabhura kane Shava para shila hunkara kariya prabhu tabahi utila. After some time, the sound of the holy name entered the ear of the Lord, who immediately got up, making a great noise. Utite asti sava lagila nijastane arda baye iti uti karena tarashane. As soon as he got up, his bones assumed their proper places. With half external consciousness, the Lord looked here and there. Tina Dashaya Mahaprabhu Rahena Sarva Kala Antardasha Bhaya Dasha Ardabhaya Hara. The Lord remained in one of three different states of consciousness at all times: internal, external, and half external. Antardashara Kichu Gora Kichu Vaya Gyana Sedashakahi Bhakta Ardavaya Nama. When the Lord was deeply absorbed in internal consciousness, but he nevertheless exhibited some external consciousness, devotees called this condition Ardavaya, or half external consciousness. Ardavaya Kahina Prabhu Palabhavachane Akashe Kahina Prabhu Shunena Bhakta Gandhe. In this half external consciousness, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talked like a madman. The devotees could distinctly hear him speaking to the sky. Kalindi Dekyami Kailana Vrindavana Deki Jala Krita Karena Rajendra Nantana. Seeing the river Yamuna, he said, I went to Vrindavan. There I saw the son of Nanda Maharaj performing his sporting pastimes in the water. So in other words, as he was looking at the ocean, he actually saw Krishna and the gopis having pastimes in the water. Radhikari Gopigana Sange Katra Mehle Yamuna Rajale Maharange Karena Kele. Lord Krishna was in the water of the Yamuna in the company of the gopis, headed by Srimati Radharani. They were performing pastimes in a great sporting manner. Tire rahideki ami saki gana sange ekasaki saki gane dekaya se range. I saw this pastime as they stood on the bank of the Yamuna in the company of the gopis. One gopi was showing some other gopis the pastimes of Radha and Krishna in the water. Patavastra lankare samarvya saki kare shukshma shukla vastra paridana Krishna lana kanta gana kaila jalavaka gana jalakeli rachila Shutama. All the gopis entrusted their silken garments and ornaments to the care of their friends and then put on fine white cloth. Lord Krishna, taking his beloved gopis with him, bathed and performed very nice pastimes in the water of the Yamuna. They're wearing white cloth. Saki he, deka Krishnara jalakeli range Krishna Mata Karivara Chantila Kara Pushkara Gopi Gana Karindira Sange. My dear friends, just see Lord Krishna's sporting pastimes in the water. Krishna's restless palms resemble lotus flowers. He is just like the chief of mad elephants, and the gopis who accompany him are like she-elephants. Alambila jala kele onyonye jala pela peli Huda huri varshe jaladhara Sabe jaya parajaya Nahi kichu nischaya Jalayuda vadila apara. The sporting pastimes in the water began, and everyone started splashing water back and forth. In the tumultuous showers of water, no one could be certain which party was winning and which was losing. This sporting water fight increased unlimitedly. So this is what Lord Caitanya saw as he was walking past the ocean. That's why he jumped into the ocean. Vashistira Tadigana Sinje Shama Navagana Gana Varshe Taditupare Saki Ganera Nayana Chishita Chatagana Sayamrita Suke Panakare. The gopis were like steady streaks of lightning, and Krishna resembled the blackest cloud. The lightning began sprinkling water upon the cloud, and the cloud upon the light. Just like thirsty chataka birds, the eyes of the gopis joyously drank the nectarine water from the cloud. Pratame yuda jala jale, tabi yuda kara kare, tarapache yuda mukhamuki, tabi yuda ridai ridi, tabi haila rada ridi. Tabi haila yuda nakanaki. As the fight began, they splashed water on one another. Then they fought hand to hand, then face to face, then chest to chest, teeth to teeth, and finally nail to nail. Sahasra kare jalaseke, sahasra netre gopi deke, sahasra parinikati gamane, sahasra mukha chumbane, Sahasra vapu sangame, gopi narma shune, sahasra kane. Thousands of hands splashed water, and the gopis saw Krishna with thousands of eyes. With thousands of legs they came near him, and they kissed him with thousands of faces. Thousands of bodies embraced him. The gopis heard his joking words with thousands of ears. Wow. Krishna Radha Lanabale Gela Kanta Dagna Jale Charila Tahan Yahan Agada Pani Teno Krishna Kanta Dari Ase Jalero Pari Gajot Kate Yache Kamalini. Krishna forcibly swept Radharani away and took her into water up to her neck. Then he released her where the water was very deep. She grasped Krishna's neck, however, and floated on the water like a lotus flower plucked by the trunk of an elephant. Yata Gopa Sundari Krishna Tata Rupadari Savaravastra Karilarane, Yamuna Jala Nirmala, Anga Kare Jalamala, Suke Krishna Kare Darashane. Krishna expanded himself into as many forms as there were gopis, and then took away all the garments that covered them. The water of the river Yamuna was crystal clear, and Krishna saw the glittering bodies of the gopis in great happiness. Padmini Lata Saki Chaya, Kailo Karo Sahaya, Taranga Haste Patra Samarpila, Kaya Mukta Keshabasha, Age Kaila, Odhovasa, Haste Keha Kanchule Darila. The lotus stems were friends of the gopis and therefore helped them by offering them lotus leaves. The lotuses pushed their large round leaves on the surface over the surface of the water with their hands, the waves of the Yamuna, to cover the gopis' bodies. Some gopis undid their hair and kept it in front of them as dresses to cover the lower portions of their bodies, and used their hands as bodices to cover their breasts. Very intimate stuff here. Krishnara Kalaha Radhasane Gopi Gana Sekshane Hemabja Vane Gela Lukaite Akantabapu Jale Pashe Mukamatra Jale Vase Padme Mukena Parichinite. Then Krishna quarreled with Radharani, and all the gopis hid themselves in a cluster of white lotus flowers. They submerged their bodies up to their necks in the water. Only their faces floated above the surface, and the faces were indistinguishable from the lotuses. Eta Krishna Radhasane Kaila Yeyat Shila Mane Gopi Gana Anveshite Gela Tabi Radha Sukshma Mati Janiya Sakira Stiti Saki Majayasya Milila. In the absence of the other gopis, Lord Krishna behaved with Srimati Radharani as freely as he desired. When the gopis began searching for Krishna, Srimati Radharani, being of very fine intelligence, and thus knowing the situation of her friends, immediately mingled in their midst. Yata himabja jale vase tata nilabja tare vashe asik asi karye milada ilabje himabje teke yudahaya pratyake kotuke deki tire saki gana. Many white lotus flowers were floating in the water, and as many bluish lotus flowers came nearby. As they came close together, the white and blue lotuses collided and began fighting with one another. The gopis on the bank of the Yamuna watched with great amusement. Chakravaka mandala pitak pitak yugala chala haite karila udgama utila padma mandala pitak pitak yugala chakravake kaila achadana. When the raised breasts of the gopis, which resembled the globe-like bodies of Chakravaka birds, emerged from the water in separate couples, the bluish lotuses of Krishna's hands rose to cover them. I'm not going to come on, but it's very, very intimate pastimes. Okay, one more verse. Utila bahura tokpala pitak pitak yugala padma ganera kaila nivarana padma chahi lutinite Utpala chahi rakite chakravaka lagi dudhara rana. The hands of the gopis, which resembled red lotus flowers, arose from the water in pairs to obstruct the bluish flowers. That's Krishna's hands. The blue lotuses tried to plunder the white chakravaka birds, and the red lotuses tried to protect them. Thus there was a fight between the two. One more verse. Padmokpala chaitana chakravaka sachetana Chakravaki Padma Shvadaya Ihandunara Uktastiti Dharma Haila Vipariti Krishnara Rajayache Nyaya Haya. Blue and red lotus flowers, were unconscious objects, whereas Chakravakas are conscious and alive. Nevertheless, in ecstatic love, the blue lotuses began to taste the Chakravakas. This is a reversal of their natural behavior. But in Lord Krishna's kingdom, such reversals are a principle of his pastimes. Generally, the Chakrabaka bird tastes the lotus flower, but in Krishna's pastimes, the lotus, which is usually lifeless, tastes the Chakrabaka bird. I'm not going to comment on that. It's very intimate. Okay, so we can take questions, but don't ask any questions about really intimate things with Radha and Krishna. You can ask questions about ecstatic emotions, but not get into so much of the details of these last few verses. Okay, so we're stopping the share, and we are allowing you to unmute yourselves. Okay, all right, you can raise your hand, or you can unmute yourself, or you can type in the text window. So who has a question or two? Nobody. It's the very intimate pastimes. And what can you ask about? I mean, basically, we heard about Lord Chaitanya's transcendental ecstasy in separation from Krishna. Okay, Sudhana, you have a question. You can unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Haribol.
How is your health? How are you doing? Are you okay?
Anyway, let's really not talk about the health in the class, but I'm. Anyway, I just mentioned that I'm surviving, and we're waiting for appointment at the hospital. And basically, that's it. And it looks like everything will be all right. So basically, it's, for those of you who don't know, it's a kidney stone, and it looks like everything will be all right. It's just a question of getting the appointment. But I have first-class doctors, everything like that. We're dealing with a hospital named Duke University Hospital. Okay, let's ask a question about, and we're missing you all. I'm sorry I won't be able to come there this time, but we will come as soon as possible. So, who has a question about?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribo, Gopisha. Okay.
Yes. So I was wondering that, like, whenever I'm reading alone and I come upon intimate pastimes like this, what's the best way for me to approach them?
Best way to approach them is just read them, and it's actually quite dangerous to try to picture these pastimes in one's head if one is not a liberated soul. Because if you try to picture them in your head, then you'll actually equate them with your experience or the experience that other people have had, and you will not be thinking of Krishna. You will be projecting Krishna's pastimes upon the mundane realm. So the best way is basically appreciate how amazing and inconceivable Krishna's pastimes are. That's all I do. It's inconceivable. It's inconceivable, and also to understand how in this material world we are all experiencing a perverted reflection of the activities of the Lord and of the activities of the devotees in the spiritual world. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the 15th chapter, we find the material world is being described as a reflection of a tree that's upside down, with its roots upwards and branches down. And that tree, of course, is the material world, and so, which is a reflection of the spiritual world. And it's a banyan tree, too, because it's a banyan tree. One can't really differentiate to a large extent between the branches and the roots. It's very hard to differentiate between the two. So, because you find the banyan tree has roots going up, and the banyan tree has branches going down, and so the whole thing is very, very confusing. In the same way, it is very difficult to get out of this material world. And Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, the 5th chapter, the text, 5th chapter, in the 15th chapter, text 5 says, Nirmana Boha, Jita Sangha Dosha Vyatma Nicha Vanivrita Kama, that one gets out of this entanglement of the material world by giving up lust, by giving up attachment, bad association, Jittasanga dosha, and being absorbed in Krishna Kata. So, anyway, so the point is just appreciate inconceivable nature until one is actually on a liberated platform. Because if you try to picture these things, it may even stimulate material desires in one's heart and one's mind. So, what other questions do we have? So you can type your question or unmute yourself or raise your hand. If not, we'll end a little early tonight. Okay, going once. And hopefully we'll continue tomorrow. It just depends on what happens tomorrow. It's all in Krishna's hands. But hopefully we can have a class tomorrow. Okay, thank you very much. All glorious to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Haribol.